to Riot Girl Reads, my booktube channel. Thanks for being here. I hope everyone's feeling okay today, and if you're not, that's cool. No judgment. Hopefully our little chat can make you feel a little bit better. So yeah, welcome. This is my very first video, and you're seeing this on Friday, and I am pre-filming because today I am seeing My Chemical Romance for the first time. I'm so excited. They are one of my most favorite bands ever, and I've never seen them live. So crossing fingers for future Katie that she's having a great time today, and that she gets a really good spot to see them. So for my first video, I wanted to go ahead and do sort of an August wrap up, even though I know we're at the middle of September already. Let's talk about the books I read in August. So I'm a slow kind of reader, depending on what I'm reading. I'm not that person that reads, 25, 30, 40 books a month. No way. So yeah, it changes month to month how much I read. In August, I only read a total of 2 books and a lot of fan fiction. The first book I read is this one. It's An Affair of Poisons by Addie Thorley. And this was a YA historical fiction novel with a little splash of romance. It originally came out in 2019, but I don't remember hearing much about it. I had actually never heard of it before until I got this book as a gift from my partner, who is really amazing at picking out books for me that I like. Affair of Poisons is about a real event that happened back in 17th century France, called An Affair of Poisons. In short, so what happened was the members of the French nobility were purchasing poisons and other questionable services from a woman, a real-life woman named La Boisson, to take care of people who got in the way of their ambitions. This story, however, is a little bit of a rewrite of history. I think of it kind of like a Quentin Tarantino sort of remake, like Inglourious Bastards, where, or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where maybe the bad guys don't win this time. The story follows the fictional daughter of La Boisson. Her name is Mirabelle, and she's a talented alchemist who creates the poisons and potions for her mother. The story is told in a dual point of view between her and then also the eyes of Jossie, who is a bastard son of King Louis the 14th. Yeah, the 14th, aka the Sun King. Mirabelle is inadvertently sort of used by her mother to assassinate the Sun King, which obviously didn't happen in real life, but this starts, it kickstarts the revolution, led by a group of peasants and common people known as the Shadow Society. And then Mirabelle's path crosses with Jossie's after a bloody attack on the palace at Versailles, and the two of them are kind of thrown together to sort of figure out what the hell there is to be done now that their country and their lives have been completely turned upside down. I gave this one a 3-star on Goodreads. I think maybe I would say a 3 or a 3.5. This was a standalone novel, so not a series, which series are obviously very popular for YA books, especially YA like fantasy books. And I kind of appreciated the one and done. Sometimes I don't feel like getting into a whole series, so this was kind of refreshing. However, in just this one case, I think it would have been nice to at least have a duology. Some of the plot points and the character journeys felt a little rushed, a little incomplete, a little wrapped up in a neat bow. I would have liked to see a little bit more exploration and struggle with the characters in the plot. And I think there were also a lot of political ideas that weren't fully explored within the book, probably due to the length, I would imagine. There's an idea in this book, and it's something that Alexander Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers, sort of explores in his works, and that's the idea of the benevolent ruler. So, a king or a queen or, you know, the idea that someone in the royal class is ultimately good, ultimately wants, you know, what's best for their people, and, you know, maybe make some mistakes in the decisions they make, but, you know, again, ultimately good person. But knowing what I know about the French monarchy and that part of history, probably not. But, you know, maybe I'll do like more of a deep dive into the history versus reality with this book. If that's something you guys would like to see, let me know. Shoot me a comment, and, you know, that's something I can put together. When I was actually reading some of the Goodreads reviews prior to starting the book myself, I read one reader that said they enjoyed the book, but there was too much romance. And personally, I felt like there wasn't enough. Like, when I said before there's a splash of romance, there is a splash of romance. I did like the development of the relationship between Mirabelle and Jossie. They're two very rich characters with very different experiences. Mirabelle has grown up outside the palace, outside the nobility, under her mother's thumb, and has been in this abusive parent relationship that she's finally trying to escape from and actually do some good for her community and her people. And then you have, on the other hand, you have Jossie, who has grown up in the palace, but not a noble. He was a kitchen boy, so he feels like he has this common experience to the sort of forgotten poor and peasants of France, but he doesn't realize how very privileged he's been in growing up. So through the story, he kind of learns to look at his life and experiences from a different perspective. The two of them teach each other a whole lot. They argue, they support each other's wins, and it's just a very beautifully developed relationship in the midst of all the chaos. An Affair of Poisons, great story, even though I wish it was more fleshed out. I will definitely be looking out for more books by this author. I think this was her first. And if you like the idea of exploring sort of an alternate universe history, then I recommend this. Next, I wanted to do something a little out of the ordinary maybe, and throw some love to fan fiction. One thing I wanted to mention, the fan fiction I read always has an element of romance in it. That's just who I am. I love romance. I love love. There we go. But I wanted to highlight a fic called Glass. This was on AO3, Archive of Our Own, and this is by a user called adaydreamtofiction. The author actually wrote a little bit of a series with this story, so there was lots to read, and it was lots of fun to read. And I really enjoy when fan fiction authors sort of do like canon rewrites, or take canon and add new characters, like their own characters, or change scenes and sort of explore that idea of like, you know, what if they went right instead of left? What if there was another person here, you know? It's an interesting exploration to me. And it's something that really drew me to fan fiction in the first place. And if you've never read fan fiction and you're new to it, I think canon sort of adjacent fics are a great place to start. And, you know, dive in. So this particular story, the author created her own character and threw her into the events of Sherlock's life in seasons 3 and 4. I really liked the original character. I loved how the writer fit her creation into the canon events of the show. Also, what was really cool was the author sort of did a Victorian themed one-shot of with the characters, kind of like they did with the BBC show at the beginning of season 4, but this, instead of just being like another rewrite of The Abominable Bride, she did her own, or they did their own story with the character. So yeah, it's really cool. If you are looking for some Sherlock fanfic to read, I recommend Glass by adaydreamtofiction on Archive of Our Own, and I will try to throw a link down below. Finally, I have one last book that I wanted to share, and I actually spent one afternoon reading this. It was very short. I read this on Kindle. It was a novella, and it was part of Kerrigan Byrne's Victorian Rebel series, and it was the novella The Earl on the Train. Hopefully it shows up right here. If not, I look silly, but bear with me as I learn to edit and use iMovie. Anyways, The Earl on the Train, this is the 8th book in the series. I'm a huge fan of Kerrigan's writing, and this series in general. I was super excited for this story ever since we met the two characters in a previous story. It was the Duke and the Duke with the dragon tattoo, which was the 6th book. This story follows us up with Sebastian, who is a former pirate, now Duke, and Veronica, whose husband's death has left her free to make her own destiny. Her husband was a total dickhead, so the fact that he's dead is totally fine. No tears spent on that. Sebastian and Veronica met on a previous adventure, and now feelings and desires have kind of ramped up to a boiling point where these two are going to have to decide if their attraction to each other matters more than Sebastian's past and Veronica's reservations about falling in love with him. So because this is a novella, that's a word? Because this is a novella instead of a book, it's lagging a little in plot. Most of the story is smut, which I'm not complaining. I would recommend this book, I wouldn't recommend this book if you haven't read the rest of the series, or at least The Duke with the Dragon Tattoo, because you lose a lot of Veronica and Sebastian's story. Their banter is amazing in both books. The sexual attention is just off the charts. But you really get more of the build-up in the previous story. This story is more of like the consummation and the resolution. I really love Kerrigan's male characters. I love a Duke, or, I love a dude with a dark past who really isn't all that bad when it comes down to it. It's just kryptonite, crack, whatever you want to call it. Actually, Kerrigan was my introduction to historical romance, and honestly, I really like her stories in particular because they're more feminist-minded than older historical romances tend to be. I'm sure if there's anyone out there that's read a lot of historical romances, especially any that were written, 90s, 80s, early 2000s. The key is we don't get any of our heroines getting R-worded by the heroes. In case you don't know, that was a huge problem with historical romances written in the 90s and prior, and it's something I learned the hard way. Beware if you start diving into historical romances, and if you're new to it, I recommend Kerrigan Byrne's work. Byrne. I always say Byrne. That's not what I mean. Anyways, thanks for joining me for this first video. Hopefully you have subscribed by now. Leave me a comment. Let me know, have you read An Affair of Poisons? Do you read historical romances? Do you read fan fiction? What's up? Introduce yourself. Let's chat in the comments. I am not 100% sure what my upload schedule is going to be. It's definitely going to be weekly, but I haven't decided which day yet. But do look forward to another video next week. I'm sort of planning what my spooky month books are going to be, so I'm definitely going to be excited to share all those, and I've read some really cool books so far this month, so I'm excited to eventually do the September wrap up. So thanks for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a nice day. Bye.